That's a bit better. Bit of a mop-a-rooney after the clean-up will bring you down. So just finished giving the lathe a proper good clean down. Well, g'day, Max here again. Welcome back to the shop. So we're back in the new shop today, and this is part 8 of the JFMT lathe repairs. So I've really got to pull my finger out now and start moving with this, as the bench that I'm using, I need that from a relatively urgent project. And I have to get also, the other rush to get this thing done is very shortly I'll be starting to lay the cables for the wiring for the 3-phase power for the new shop. So progress to date. The last couple of days I've just been right over this machine with main casting and all that, and given it a really good clean down with some kerosene. And yeah, that was quite a job, a bit more than what I had expected, but no, she's done now. So we'll take a wander around and show you where we're up to and what we plan to achieve today. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just in the middle of a bit of a mop-up, clean up on the floor. So all the little nooks and crannies have had a really good clean out. So she's nice, probably as clean as what it was when it was new. I did hook the motor out, as we'll get to shortly, and I just wanted to give all the casting a good clean up inside, get rid of all the old chips and crap out of it. This is the oil tank, which we plan to look at today. But yeah, no, it's come up really nice. The coolant pump is just sitting in there temporary while I'm mopping up. We do have to pull that out, and I do want to give that a thorough inspection. I don't want to start using that and have it leaking coolant everywhere, or it's not supposed to. So okay, well, let's seeing we are at the electric motor end, let's take a wander over to the motor. So the old boring mill's come in handy as a workbench. So the other day I did hook the motor out and strip it down, and this is a 10 horsepower, you won't be able to read the tag, but it's a 10 horsepower motor. All appears to be in good condition inside. Shafts, bearing areas appear to be all very good. Yeah, I was quite surprised on the condition, how clean this was inside. So I wasn't originally going to do anything with it, but I just give it a clean, as it felt really good. Bearings felt good, but I was just sitting there playing with it for a bit, and there was just a very slightest of grumbles. It was very hard to pick up. So I thought, well, while we've got the thing accessible, let's replace the bearings. The old bearings that come out of it, they're NSK Japanese bearing. Can't quite read that. 6.5, 6, or could be a 5 or a 3. Anyway, it's getting new ones. So I'll clean this all up, and then we'll bring you around for the reassembly. When I did strip it, I did put in a couple of snapshots, a couple of photos, as I only had my phone camera with me. On the puller setup I used stripping it down, so I'll just add them in now, and then we'll head over. You'll see it next when we reassemble it, when it's all clean. So we're ready to press our bearings on. We've got this one just sitting on here. say 6308 bearing, both the same either end. So we'll get this sitting in the press. They're only a light press fit on. I just don't want to knock them on with a punch. And then we'll get our end housing on. Well, on this end we'll have the end housing on first, and then the pulley. The pulley's quite a tight fit on the shaft, and then we can slip the armature into the motor housing and pop the remaining end cap and fan on. So we're just using our little garage press I just brought over from my little shop until we build the proper press here. But this little press is ideal for this sort of work. The off over yonder there's a big lump of chrome bar. It's about 5-inch diameter bar. That's the ram, part of the ram for our new press that we're going to build, the 100-tonner. That's all looking good. That's it, she's home. So we'll get our end cover, end bell on. We've got to make sure we get the right one. This one has a rubber spacer in, and it's not tapped on the ears for the shroud, the fan shroud, as is the other side. So this should just be a light taparoonie fit on here. Like so. Now keyway, the keyway is drilled for a dimple, well, it's dimpled for the set screw that's in the pulley, so that's got to go the right way around. So if you look at our pulley above the keyway, goes that way around. Unless you're going to hang the keyway halfway out. Because of the dimple screw, I'm not sure of the location, so at least now I should be able to press the pulley on and then tap the keyway in with a punch. So I'm just going to put couple of drops of oil, just lube it up. It only just fits in the press as well, and this end bell's wanting to slide off, so I'll just hold it up with my thumb. That's it, we're home. That's him, spot on. So there's 6 grub screws go in 120 degrees apart. There's one goes on top of another. So the first one to go in is this one with a cone point, and then the following one, it backs it up with a flat head one or flat face one, and this one locks this one into position. Just make sure it doesn't come out. In he goes. And it's locking screw. It's a bit of a grey old day outside today. It's like winter's trying to drag on. At least it's not raining, though we've had a lot of rain and we're going to get a lot of rain during the week. Right, they're done, so now we can insert this into the motor housing. So I've got to very carefully feed this through, not create any damage. A couple of bolts in to hold it. There's a keyway, it's an integral key part of the fan. And the circlip holds the fan on. Okay. And lastly, our end cover. Not a sound, that's beautiful. Okay, so now we can have full confidence, well, as much as we can have, that our motor's going to perform as required. Okay, let's see if we can get our motor in the hole. Feed the wiring through first. Okay, that was easy. So I think this SD card's about full. That's if it hasn't cut out already. Just put the adjuster bolt in, and now I can get the belts on. And then the brake assembly. I'll have to wash all that up first, and then we'll go through that with you, how that works. Okay, so I mentioned before when we were looking at the pulley, this area on the back of the pulley is actually the drum for the brake. It's like a drum, well, it is a drum brake, like off a little motorbike type thing. So yeah, it just has a couple of generic looking brake shoes, made in Japan. Reservoir is the make. So yeah, this would be some common thing I'd expect you could get. There's no wear on them, so these are like brand new, so that's a good thing. So yeah, it just slips in there and bolts down to the base plate. Now what you've got to be wary of, I would expect, there's 4 adjusting screws there. Now they would be to centralise the brake shoes, the linings, in a vertical position, so you can adjust it up or down. So when the shoes open out, they're grabbing the middle of the brake drum. So I'm not going to mess with that adjustment, as I can't feel it wanting to lift or do anything weird. So we'll bolt her back in as it came out. There's no reason to think anything's going to be amiss. Just bolts down with 4 bolts. Make sure she's pushed in all the way, and nip the bolts down. Sounds like we're rubbing somewhere. Give her a tap back out. Let me just get a hammer so I can centralise this. So when I'm pushing down the lever, I'm feeling one shoe contact then the other. And I'm seeing the whole thing wanting to flex. That feels better. Not rubbing. Okay. Yeah, just a bit of toing and froing, bumping around with the hammer, and you'll get a location where it wants to sit. That feels good. Feels like both shoes are contacting. Yeah, before when one shoe was contacting, you push down and you get a bit of resistance, it will keep going, and then the other one you'd feel it contact. So, okay. So we've just got to hook our cable back on. So inside the casing there's a micro switch just here. So when you push the brake, this lever moves and disengages the micro switch. So if you're pushing on the brake, you push, okay, the lever has disengaged the micro switch. This should cut power to the motor, and then you can engage the brake. That stops you putting the brake on while the motor's still powered. So we can take up some adjustment on the cable at this end as well. So I'll nip up the other end, and then we'll just nip up this cable a little bit on this end, and it should be good. It's probably not too bad where it is there. So we have our headstock oil reservoir in this separate tank here. Now I did have someone ask the question when I had the lid off why they couldn't see any oil in there as they did when they were looking at some other channel. They had their lid off as well. Well, it's because this headstock runs dry, there's no oil in it. The oil gets sucked out of here, gets pumped up through all the gears and then runs back down. It's basically like a dry sump. So why they do it this way, I couldn't tell you. So I've got really no idea what's going on in between the tank and the base of the headstock, what seals it off or what. So we're going in sort of semi-blind. I did have a look in the parts breakdown, but there wasn't really nothing to be gained there. I know there's a bit of a down tube, that's all I could get out the parts breakdown, and that's the suction line from the pump. So it's quite possible that the top of this tank is open in one area. The worst case scenario is we can't get the thing out because of the pump, and I'm not dismantling the oil, well, the headstock to get the oil pump out, unless it comes out behind that cover. I don't even really want to do that. So, oh, here we go, we've got something. Okay, let me go and get a bucket or put the drain bung back in here first before we make a mess. Right, I had to go searching for the drain bung. I had this extension in, which I'm going to leave it set up with an extension in, just not this one, just to make it easy for future oil changes. This tank it has a flexible line. Oh, this is going to be really easy if I can get it out. Hopefully it does come out. I'll bring you back when I work out a method to get this out. It's just very tight to get out. Okay, so we had a eureka moment. We figured out if we take the screws out of there and just let the electrical cabinet move across, it actually allowed the whole oil tank to move forward that way a little bit. It was enough to tuck the bottom out and drop it straight down. So that was good. So I can put a bit of sealant on here now. It was actually, there's a gasket on there, so it should be right. And that can go straight back on. And yeah, this is the suction for the headstock oil pump. As a brass strainer. So the oil pump is, let's get, yeah, it's right there where that black fitting goes into the side of it. Also get a bit of a view into the rest of the headstock from the other side. and everything's looking really good in there, so that's good. So this system, yeah, anything that drops out the bottom ends up in here, and as you can see, it's a bit sludgy down the bottom. So, and looking up underneath where it comes, there's a drain. I think that square hole is a drain. Yes, it is. And also oil can drain out around this tube here. So that's a good system, that. I quite like it. So let me get this cleaned out. Well, it's cleaned out to somewhat. Then I'll drill it. I'll go down a hydraulic shop and see if I can get a suitable bulkhead fitting to go in the end here for our new oil filler location. We've drilled a hole in the end of our oil tank. So that is to take this modified bulkhead fitting. It's a standard type bulkhead fitting. Has the nut on the end to pull it up against the bulkhead, but I've cut the end of it off. Normally a bulkhead fitting, this extra thread out here. So the extra thread out here takes whatever hose connection you're going to put on the end of it, hydraulic hose connection. So this will go into here and create our filler net. So then there's a cap that goes over it, a threaded cap, which is that. Now I did also want to extend a nipple coming out of the drain port a little bit, but I'm going to have to leave that as it is. There's no way I can really do that successfully, as directly behind it we have this cross tube. So if we look down inside the tank, right down the bottom, the cross tube is pretty well in line with where that nipple would have to go, so I can't get in and drill and tap that out anymore, as yeah, we'll hit the cross tube. So I was able to get my flexi funnel under that quite easily when I drained the tank, so it's not really a big issue, so we'll let that one slide. So we'll get our modified bulkhead fitting fitted in here, and we'll meet you back at the lathe when we have an attempt to reinstall our hydraulic reservoir. Okay, so now we can get our oil tank back in. I have run a spanner over these rear headstock bolts and over the other ones that I could see, just to make sure everything was tight and as they should be, and they were. So I've given the oil pickup screen, it's a disassemblable screen, so you pull it all apart, clean it out. So we've done that. So oil tank's all nice and clean. So the drain port for the tank used to have this cheesy looking BSP-ish, it's very short drain plug. So we're changing that out for a proper drain plug with an O-ring. And I do have a flexi funnel that does clip in under here, which makes draining the oil quite an easy operation with no mess. As I've explained before, the reason why I didn't put a little extension on there was due to the lack of room inside. So here's our new filler cap, or filler elbow, sorry. Here's the cap. That's all it needs. That'll make changing the oil in this headstock a breeze. So, alright, I can go ahead and put the main cover door back on this next. And, well, actually, before I do that, I've got a bit of wiring inside to tidy up, which I'll do off camera. It's just some of the sheathing, the insulation sheathing has gone hard. I want to just slip it off, replace it, and just inspect the wiring. So I've also given the slideways their final clean, and they've come up immaculate, very good. So yeah, so we'll bring this one to a close here. So that's all pretty well wrapped up, what we've got to do to the headstock. There's a couple of bits of wiring, yeah, as I said before, just got to go through and have a bit of a clean up. It's not too much to do on that. So I guess next episode will be, well, we need to get our tailstock reassembled, finished up, and then we'll have a look at our carriage and see what we're going to do there. So anyway, cheers, thanks for watching, and yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you in the next video.